What's going on, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice Pacers. You guys, Derek and Cody with you. And guys, we just got done watching the Pacers lose a game in which they had complete control of up until the fourth quarter. And the Pacers just lost it. I mean, this was definitely a epic collapse in the fourth quarter, Cody. There was a lot that went down, and admittedly, I did not get a chance to watch quarters 1 through, or for the first half, basically. But that second half, I got to watch all of it, and my God, that was an abysmal performance here. Let's go ahead and just hop into some quick stuff here first, Cody. Leading scorers for the game, Jalen Smith with 20 points. Brunson had 40 for the New York Knicks, shooting 50% and 81% from the free throw line. Leading rebounder was Smith with 9. Hartenstein had 19 rebounds in this game for the New York Knicks. And Nembhard and Hartenstein both finished with 6 assists on the game. Let's just talk about some of the leading scorers and everything here real quick, Cody. I mean, Brunson had an unbelievable game. I mean, he could not be stopped, especially in the second half. I mean, he was making every right decision, and Hartenstein just would not be denied at the rim, man. And it was ultimately the reason why the Pacers lost control in the second half of this game.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, when you say Pacers had this one and they just choked it away. An absolute choke show from this team. And I tell you what, man, I know that the Pacers were still, down Benedict Mathurin, but the Knicks were down 3 players. Like, it's not like the Knicks were fully healthy in this game either. And so it's just embarrassing to see that, man, with the Pacers up as much as, 10 plus points, double digits. They were up by double digits at one point in this game. And then, like, you're right, like they just absolutely collapsed there in the fourth quarter when it mattered. When you look at this game and kind of how it breaks down, Derek, overall, I mean, the Pacers got absolutely outscored, especially in that fourth quarter. They got absolutely just destroyed. I mean, outscored by 9 in that fourth quarter, and that ultimately was the difference. And, outscored by 11 in the second half. And so, as much as you were up, you just completely fell apart when it mattered down the stretch. And, Derek, you mentioned the rebounds. I mean, multiple players on the Knicks in this performance who, had double-digit rebounds. You mentioned already Hartenstein, but how about Achua as well? 16 rebounds. Hart had 12. And so the Pacers just completely got absolutely destroyed on the boards. It's a pathetic performance by them. And we've seen this happen before, Derek, where the Pacers they get completely just outmanned when it comes, to the boards. And tonight was no different. They were out rebounded 60-44. It was just an absolute, especially in that fourth quarter, they could not get a rebound to save their lives. And then it came to some of your, players who routinely have been pretty good for you scoring, couldn't make a simple layup. You couldn't make a routine shot. And it was just a combination of all that stuff that led to this epic meltdown for the Pacers in the fourth quarter. And then at that point, it was so many self-inflicted penalties and so many things that routinely this offense has done well that you just weren't doing well. And so it was a combination of that. Couldn't get a rebound to save your life. And it just ultimately added up, Derek. And, Tyrese Haliburton, I know he's on a minute count, but what is this minute count that he's been on, man? He's not even available in the fourth quarter when you need him the most to make a play. It doesn't make any sense. I absolutely hate the rotation in the minutes decided by the Pacers. And I know, you can't bring him back in there because you've already set that, but, spread it out, man. Do something because you needed a spark there in the fourth quarter, and a guy like Haliburton can provide that, and you simply just didn't have that tonight when it came to shooting the basketball, especially in the final couple minutes there. So I just definitely think it was a disappointing loss overall, and you have to figure out, number one, how to get better, when it comes to getting rebounds. And number two, Derek, I just personally feel like the effort was not there when it mattered. I mean, the Knicks just completely were out hustling the Pacers. It seemed like every 50-50 attempt to get the ball, the Knicks were getting it, and the Pacers were just slow tonight. And that's not something we've said about the Pacers. Like, they're typically a good hustle team in a lot of ways, but tonight was just very sluggish from them overall. So, yeah, definitely very disappointing. You come off of some very impressive wins. You were on a 3-game winning streak at one point, and then you come back and, you're encouraged by that Boston game, even though you did lose. You're very encouraged, but this is one of the more disappointing losses for the Pacers in quite a while. So definitely was discouraged and definitely felt like some of your big guys, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, I felt like personally, Derek, it was probably some of their worst performances of the season. You definitely needed more from them, and they just didn't provide it when it mattered.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot there. I mean, when it came to Haliburton and the time thing, I mean, you're right. He was tied for the fewest minutes of the entire game of everyone that was available outside of Obi Toppin and Shepherd. Those guys also had 22 minutes, but he was your fourth leading scorer. He was tied for the fewest amount of minutes. So, like you said, from a score production, you didn't get enough from everybody. I don't want to include Jalen Smith in there just because Smith was your leading scorer. He did have 20 coming off the bench, very efficient in what he was doing. And he was one of the few guys that actually was a positive force to have there on the court. But like you said, Siakam, he was a -10 being on the court tonight. Miles Turner, -6. Buddy Hield, also a -10. Buddy Hield has been he has been a detriment to this team over the last couple of games. What is this now? The second game in a row that Buddy Hield has had 3 points, and he's a starter, Cody. The sniper of your team can't make shots. He's impossible to shoot. He's so inconsistent shooting. He doesn't play defense. Buddy Hield is a detriment to this team right now, and it's getting to be frustrating because you got some of these other guys who are out there. He got outscored by everyone on the bench. Everyone on the bench tonight outscored Buddy Hield, and yet he had the third most minutes. Like this, that is not a good thing to have if you're the Indiana Pacers. We obviously looked at the stats. I mean, the Knicks had, despite missing guys too, their key guys, they stepped up big time. And the problem is, Cody, the Pacers shot 6% better from the field today than the New York Knicks did, which is crazy. They shot 6% better. From the 3-point line, they shot 18% better. So you'd look at those stats and you'd say, there's no way the New York Knicks beat them. And even from the turnovers perspective, that's it. There really wasn't that much of a difference. The main problem was the fouls. You committed 11 more than the New York Knicks overall in this game. And, of course, the biggest ones, the rebounds and the free throw percentage. You shot 15% worse from the free throw line than the New York Knicks, and you got out-rebounded by 16. The Knicks had 60 rebounds, and 24 of them were offensive rebounds to your 9. So it just goes to show you, you're right. The effort was piss poor by the Pacers in this game, who had the upper hand even with Haliburton on a minutes restriction, weren't missing anyone of significant importance, and yet somehow, some way, the Knicks punked you in front of everyone when you were winning this game, and at the end of it, you couldn't rebound, you couldn't box out, you couldn't keep your hands off of them, and you couldn't keep Jalen Brunson from going left. Like, he's been wanting to go left the whole game, and yet somehow, some way, someone doesn't decide, I'm going to prevent you from going left. You are going right. I am going to make you use your right hand. Yet somehow, some way, it never happened, Cody. So, I mean, it's a lot of different things that happen. And, of course, it being so close right now, obviously, makes it worse. But I mean, man, this was a game that the Pacers should have won. And you saw it from the very beginning. I mean, they had the lead from the first, 7 or 8 minutes of the game. They were in the lead, and then they had the lead up until the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and they just didn't do what winning basketball is. And it really sucks because, like you said, we have not seen the Pacers act like that many times. Yes, they don't play great defense. Yes, they haven't been notorious for rebounding, but we have never been able to question the Pacers' lack of effort. And that was something you saw tonight.
Yeah, and again, Derek, for the team that, we've heard about it how many times, they're the number one scoring offense. They're historic. They're doing all these crazy things. And the fact that they only scored 105 points in this game, Derek, that should tell you all you need to know. That the Pacers just, when it mattered, they couldn't make the shots that they needed to make. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned Buddy Hield. I almost forgot about him. Derek, I think with the trade deadline coming soon, you got to get something for him. You can't have him be on your team. You mentioned it. I mean, the dude's already a liability on defense, and if he can't hit his shots, what is he really good for, Derek? Like, what exactly does he do to help your offense and to help your team? It definitely seems like you look at the starters, Derek, for the Pacers. There's a lot of good players. I know some of them didn't play well tonight, and I'll get into that here in a second. But, you look at all the starters on this team, and you feel pretty good about them except for that one position, and that's Buddy Hield's position, the shooting guard position. You do not feel great about that because you're right. Buddy Hield is so darn inconsistent, right? There's some nights, and we saw even like last year how good Buddy Hield was, setting franchise records and crazy things like that. And then this year, he's just been so hot and cold, right? And if he can't, consistently be hitting from, 3-point land and even just normal field goals, what exactly is he good for on this roster? So I definitely think you've seen enough with Buddy Hield. He was great in 2022, but I think it's time, Derek, for the Pacers to, look to trade him and look to kind of move forward with a new, point guard or with new shooting guard in their starting lineup, because it's kind of getting to the point, Derek, where you're like, why is he even playing? Like, what if you mentioned it, 28 minutes, only 3 points out of that. And the fact that he shot on the day, Derek, 1 of 8 from field goals and 1 of 7 from the 3-point line. That's absolutely pathetic from a guy who has banked his entire career on being able to shoot and being a very efficient and deadly shooter. That's just not good enough. So
if it happened once, I would be. If it happened once, I get it. But this is the second time in recent games, Cody, that it's happened. The same exact stat line. It's like, yeah, it's not even the fact that it happened, but it's like it's consistently happening now. And it's not like he's Ben Simmons out there who can guard anyone at any time because of his size and even an effort for that matter. But I mean, it's like, what are you doing out there? What are you worth being out there right now? You'd be better off just being on the bench at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Derek, I mean, we talked about this already, but like, you just need your star players to play like star players. You can't afford to have these nights where, your second and third best players, respectively, are, playing like that. You just can't have that happen. And that's what unfortunately happened with Siakam and Miles Turner tonight. Two, I think, of the guys that were the biggest issues with this Pacers team tonight. So hopefully they're able to rebound from that and be better. I mean, literally rebound from that too. But hopefully they're able to, get the ship right here. But yeah, an absolute pathetic performance, especially in the last couple minutes there from the Pacers. And they got to reflect on some things, man, because you can't afford to have that happen when you had control of that game. You had it in your grasp. So, yep. What else can you say, man? But you got to move on. Hopefully Haliburton gets back to, getting more minutes, and hopefully they stagger that a little bit more so we see him more when it matters, when the game comes down to the line. But I guess we'll see on that.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on the Pacers choking this one away against the Knicks. That'll do it for this one. Thank you guys so much. And as always, go Pacers.